another episode of With the Chiefs.
Wait. Man, I need more rest.
I hope I've got your last name right there.
It's a very good pronunciation.
You should know better than that now, Donald.
I know. Welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. This week we've got with us Spencer Baker, currently the champion of the With the Chiefs Handicap Challenge. Spencer, ran 18:46 the other week off a seed time of 20 minutes, and he's currently in the lead of the challenge by 35 seconds, which is pretty impressive because I don't know if Spencer had ever run 20 minutes for 5K before, but I'm sure we'll touch on that later. But Spencer's, has only recently picked up running. He's got a marathon PB of 3 hours, 22 minutes, half marathon PB of 1 hour and 31 minutes. And he's currently really ramped up his training in prep for Gold Coast next week. So this episode, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to Spencer about how he's gotten into training and how he ran his ridiculously fast 5K time off a couple of weeks training. Just like how Spencer's life's sort of changed and how his running's going. Looking forward to this one. So welcome to the show, Spencer.
Boys, how are we? Very, very happy to be here. I was saying to one of my friends before, very, I, very excited, and you've made it as a runner when you're on the With the Chiefs podcast. So, very happy to be here, and hopefully I can give a insight into my running, and which is, I assume, a bit different to the usual weapons you have on the podcast. So, keen to rip in,
Mate, I didn't. Yeah, I never thought of that. People have made it when they're on the Chiefs. We'll have to start using that one as.
Oh, for sure.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, but thank you, Spencer. What's been happening with training this week for you?
Yeah, it was week one of the 2-week taper for me. So obviously Gold Coast Marathon in about 8 days now. So kind of dropped back the volume and intensity a bit. What did I do? I just had a look before Monday. Monday I actually had a rest day, so very good start. Had actually sort of planned that rest for a while, obviously getting to the end of a pretty big training block. All sort of culminated in my 5K time trial on this Saturday, and then my last sort of big long run on the Sunday. It was about 34 Ks with some marathon pace blocks. So I was really looking forward to that Monday day off. So it was a good one. Just a bit of stretching and foam rolling and stuff. Then Tuesday just did an easy hour with some strides. Wednesday, a little 7K tempo with some easy Ks on either side as well. Thursday would usually be my medium long run day, but sort of dropped it back a bit to an hour 15 easy. Friday about 50 minutes easy, and then this morning Saturday was an hour 45 easy. Probably get out tomorrow as well for something short and easy as well. But really just kind of letting the body recover and focusing on game day in a week's time.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, it sounds like it's still a pretty decent week. Maybe just is the taper just sort of backing off the intensity a little bit, but still getting out the door?
Yeah, I think, and I suppose we'll get into it in a minute, but a mistake I made last year, I felt that I made last year when I sort of did my virtual marathon in the end, was when I was tapering, I kind of just slashed out days. And I felt I probably didn't, but I felt like I got to race day and I was like, I've lost fitness. And that really played on my mind. And this time I was kind of I'm still keen to keep up the frequency of my running, but just really drop back the volume and intensity. So I've kind of dropped it back by about 25%-ish this week. So still a good break. And then really next week is when I'll drop it back even further.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds like a pretty good approach. What about you, Smitty? How's your week been going?
Me. Ooh. So today, we'll start with the week. So Monday, what I do. It's easy. Tuesday I had oh geez, what did I do? Oh, Tuesday was pretty sizable session. I would say this week was meant to be like the last two bigger sessions. So I did two by two by 7K on Tuesday, which was pretty solid with a float as well. So it didn't really get to rest in between too much. It was more just taking a float. So it was meant to be essentially like a 14K tempo, close-ish to half marathon pace. But yeah, I felt that one went well. Actually, we're doing some testing with shoes actually because we're using. I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but I'm using. I used the Vaporflies Tuesday, and then I was going to test with the Alphaflies Thursday because we seem to be getting different power readings on the shoes with different shoes, and it seems to vary actually quite a lot, which is funny. And we're trying to figure out. I haven't heard the full details from Sally. I'm sure I'll get a very detailed analysis, but the Vaporflies. So the power pod it goes on the front of your shoe, and it's meant to be straight. The Vaporflies laces are kind of like on an angle, so it never is straight. So for example, when I'm doing a session, I don't know if this is going off on a tangent, but essentially when I'm doing a session on Tuesday with the Vaporflies at threshold, my power will be about 303 watts. That's with the Vaporflies. But then with the Alpha Flies and the speeds, threshold will be 313 watts, which actually, so if I try to hold the same power with the Vaporflies, I'm basically going at 5K pace
Yeah, right.
as opposed to, yeah. So it's, anyway, that's something trying to work out if it's in my head or if it's in the shoe. So, um, but overall, the session was good. Wednesday easy. Thursday was meant to be two by 8K, but um, I got through one of the reps and was, to be honest, like pretty cooked after that. And my calf was starting to feel a little bit niggly. I wasn't sure if it was just all in my head, but I was getting a little bit stressed, obviously, because we're pretty close to Gold Coast now. So I decided not to do the second rep. I got about 1K in and just pulled the pin and head home, which is the first time I've done that this training block. But I felt like it was just a sensible thing to do as opposed to just like completely smashing out the second rep. But yeah, then what was Friday? Rest day. I've been having Fridays have been rest days recently, which I've felt has actually been good leading into the weekend because the weekends typically have been quite an intense session. Like Saturdays and Sundays have been loaded up historically. Like I think if I've talked about a previous session, but I did like 9 by 2K on Saturday. So if I had loaded up mileage on Friday, I don't think I'd be as prepared for that. So that's something I've been enjoying doing, just kind of chilling out on a Friday. But yeah, today was 5K time trial, which Sota, shout out to Sota who ran 16:03 on at Rhodes, and he was just absolutely powering.
Yeah.
Um, um, he was so close to breaking 16. I felt like if I was just in a bit better shape, or if I was in a bit, I could have like crept up and like sort of pushed with him, but I just couldn't. Like I just couldn't do it this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't have it in me. It felt like I don't know. You saw me, Dom, towards the
Yeah.
end. I just looked like I was not having a good time.
Yeah. It just looked like
Um,
mentally you sort of it just got to you. But
yeah, it
5K is
did.
tough. Like I think, yeah, it's got to be the right day sort of thing. Like you can't just rock up and run a good 5K all the time. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you really got to G up mentally.
Mm.
And although I did feel like a little bit of that nervous tension before the race,
Mm.
it just didn't pay off in the same sort of way. I just couldn't keep pushing hard for some reason. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, I think we've talked about this in the past, Dom, but essentially um yeah, but it was one of those. I mean, it was still good, a good hit out. But when it doesn't match your expectations, because I'm thinking, oh, I could get close to sub 16 here, but
Yeah.
and you could nowhere near like
Yeah.
16, 18. But it was fun. It was fun to see Sota run fast and also be a part of his video as well, which
Yeah,
should be
video looks
interesting.
awesome. Mm.
Yeah. The filming was awesome by Natalie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was fun overall. Spenno, how did you go in the? I might just quickly like, were you felt like you were pushing the whole way in your like? Did you go to the well a little bit when you ran your 5K?
No, I actually felt all right. I kind of got to the end, and yeah, I was like, yeah, a bit tired, but I was like, oh, gee, I think I missed out a bit here. So yeah, I ran like an 18:46, but I was like, I reckon the 18:30 was definitely on.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of just cautious, like just didn't want to sort of blow out early. And yeah, kind of, as I said, got to the end and was yeah a bit spent, but I feel like I could have gone a bit quicker. So we'll see. Maybe after Gold Coast, I'll give it another.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, if you have that feeling in a 5K, you probably got more to give in that case because it's like
I know, it's a bit disappointing.
no. It's one of those I've talked to Dom. It's one of those events where if you get it right, you literally should feel like you're about to die at the end of it, especially.
Yeah,
But I don't know. It's a toughest. Just in my experience so far, I feel it's the toughest distance to get right
Mm.
because you just want to go out. Like I went out hard, um, trying to think because mentally you think, all right, 5K, got to be on the limit sort of the whole time, but that limit is a very fine line on that limit. So after about a K and after about 2Ks, I sort of knew that I went out too hard, and then I sort of paid for it. So it's one of those tricky distances. But yeah, what?
there are a few other good times down there this morning as well. Tim Litherland.
Yeah. Timmy, yeah, that was a big run from him. I was running with him for the last little bit of it, and after the race, he was like, "Oh no, I've had a shit run. Like, it's not going to be a PB or anything because he's usually like around 18:30 or so. But he usually runs at North Sydney, which is a much tougher course. But looking at the results, he ran 18:01, which I think was
Huge.
a pretty big PB for him. So I think he was like after the race, he doesn't have a watch or anything, so he didn't know like what time he'd run, but he was like, "Nah, it's definitely not a PB. Like I just didn't run well." But yeah, it was a big run from Tim.
Very good.
He looked like he was charging at the end. I saw him going towards the finish line, just sprinting away. So very very solid run. But what about you, Dom, in terms of training?
Training, yeah. So this week was kind of like an early taper, I guess. After I think last week I was talking about it, I did a huge hill session and my calf was kind of playing up a bit. I think just after the 6 hour, I've tried to just keep pushing on with training, and it just hasn't really paid off. I think that you never really know after like a big race how you're going to pull up. And in the past, I had pulled up okay. Like after the Red Bull event, I was fine, and like within a week, I was back to feeling good. But this one kind of has thrown me around a bit. And with the 100 miler coming up, I was like, I don't have time to take a week off, which is probably not the right thing to do. And yeah, my calf was like pretty niggly, and I've never really had that before. So I just ran 7Ks on Monday, pretty easy. And then Tuesday, I tried to do the session with Turbo, and I was going along all right. Like I think the session was 3 by 10 minutes, and did the first one. I think it was like sub 320s, and then the plan was to kind of go the second rep a bit easier. So I was planning to go like just sub 330s, and then hopefully be able to kick down in the last one and bring it back under 320s. But my calf was like just pretty sore still, so I just did the two reps and then called it quits on the last one. And then after that I was like, okay, I should probably actually address this calf rather than pretending to train. So I just rested and ran 7Ks the next day. Didn't do anything on Thursday, and then another 8Ks on Friday. And then today I got out for a run. after it's pretty much been like 3 days off. And it felt okay. So I think that, yeah, I've gotten to the bottom of it, hopefully, and gotten away with that little niggle. But yeah, I did a lot of like pressure point sort of release stuff, which seemed to have helped, kind of like in my hips and in my calf and all of that.
What does that involve?
I got like I saw a physio. We had luckily a free physio session at work
Ooh,
where they were kind of
convenient.
like, yeah, more talking about like posture and all of that. But it was like 30 minutes, and he was like, okay, I'll just do some like pressure point stuff, and he like I don't know found like points in your hip and then in your calf, and just like holds it for a while, and it felt like it really like loosened it up a lot. I guess after the 6 hour, it probably just tightened up heaps, and I never got any massage or never really did any recovery stuff. So I think that, yeah, doing that stuff, I've just looked it up on Google, like a bit more into it, and done that myself with a spiky ball at home. And yeah, that seemed to have done the trick. So fingers crossed I've gotten away with it and can, yeah, keep on training until the big one in 2 weeks.
Dr. Google. It's always helps out sometimes.
Yeah.
Adrian Caputo calls it Dr. Google and has a big rant about that. But anyway, what did when your calf was playing up, what did it feel like? Was it a lack of power or what?
Yeah, like lack of power. I like did the little hop test afterwards.
Yeah.
I think Paddy Max talked about that, and just couldn't really hop properly. Like, didn't have that kind of natural bounce. Like I felt like it was very like I'd almost like collapse and then have to jump again, and just yeah, real sore and stuff like that. But it was. I think I've got it early enough that yeah, we've gotten away with it. Fingers crossed, but who knows?
Yeah, I think Paddy, when we had him on the podcast, was saying immediately deload, which is essentially what you've done. But
Yeah,
it's kind of a scary thing when you don't know. You're like, oh shit, is this, when all those thoughts start ping ponging in your head when you're like,
yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, seems like you've gotten a handle on it. So you haven't, I know you mentioned it, but so you haven't experienced anything similar to that in the past?
Um, Not that I
Not
can
really.
recall. I had like a little bit of Achilles tendonitis one time after like I went to Europe and then came back and just jumped right into training and was like, let's go break 2 minutes for the 800, and was absolutely flogging myself.
Yeah.
And it was just too much intensity. But that's always what happens. Like this time it was just jumping into the hills all of a sudden, and you get injured. Like your body just needs to have time to adapt to the load. But
Yep.
easier said than done.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. Well, good recap,
yeah.
boys. So Spencer, how did you? I know you haven't been running for too long, but what's your experience with running in the past, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm a bit of a different sort of background, as I said earlier, to most people that would come on here. But I was never a runner at all in school or anything. Like obviously I played sport, pretty big into soccer, rugby, cricket, basketball. Smitty, we actually played soccer even before review. That's how long we go back.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And old Saints United, like under I don't know eights or something maybe. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, played a lot of sport through school. Loved that. Loved sort of being active. And then sort of towards the back end of high school, really got into the gym as any like 16-year-old sort of does. And so that's like sort of where I found my passion. I was there like sort of all the time. Until I was about 18, I had like a pretty bad injury in the gym, trying to be too much of a big dog. Deadlifting, I was like, would have weighed like 85, 86 kilos and like trying to deadlift like 190. So like more than like
Jeez.
200% of my body weight, um,
Wow.
which my legs could actually handle, but my like sort of core and lower back weren't strong enough to do that. And I ended up herniating 3 discs in my back. Um, and it was
Jeez.
pretty bad. I like couldn't really do a whole lot for about 6 months. Like barely stand up straight. Like I was actually kind of leaning toward one side, like had a lot of pain down my right leg. And yeah, it was in the wars basically. And like I was going to the physio, I was
Yeah.
resting it, and it took ages to get better. It kind of took like a couple of cortisone injections for it to finally get better. And I was like, okay, this is fine, this is all right. So sort of went back to still playing soccer and going to the gym. And then when I was about 24, so about 3 years ago, I did it again. Like herniated a few more discs. And yeah, this time like physio and rest and cortisone didn't help. Um, and I went to a spinal surgeon, and he was pretty much like, "You're going to need like a spinal fusion if you sort of keep doing this." Um,
Oh,
and so
shit.
I was like, "Okay, like that's obviously not good. Like I sort of need to make a change." And yeah, I kind of like got it better. It took much longer. Um, but then I was like, I can't keep going to the gym. I can't keep playing soccer because I'm just going to do it again. And then, yeah,
Mm.
coincidentally, the City to Surf was coming up. It was 2019. And it was actually a funny one. Work put on like a tent with, after the race, with like free beers and food. And classic, I was like, oh, yeah, just going to sign up with some mates and like go and drink a whole lot of beers and, have a good day. And we got to the end of the race, and they like, instead of beers and food, it was like water and fruit. And we're all sort of like stitched up. But we ended up going to Beach Road, so it was a good day anyway. But yeah, kind of, I was actually
Yeah.
looking back at that run just before. It was like I ran like 67 minutes at like a 4:48 pace or something, but I was stoked, like so happy because I'd never run before. Um, and
Mm.
then like Blackmore's half was coming up in like a month after that. So I was like, oh, like I've been running a bit, I may as well do this. And ran that in like I think 94, and was again pretty happy with that.
Woo!
And
That's
then I was
solid,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like really enjoying this. It's kind of like back's feeling good and strong. Um, and yeah, I was sort of keen to keep it up, and then keen to do a few more races, but obviously they were all sort of cancelled in the last couple of years. But yeah, been sort of getting into a few more races this year and really enjoying it. And yeah, sort of made a commitment to pick up the training a bit more this year. It was all kind of a bit social before, but taking it a bit more seriously this year, which has been good. And yeah,
Mm.
that's where I am now.
Yeah, nice. Well,
Jeez.
those original injuries, is that like a sudden thing, or is that a build up? Like, for example, are you in the gym and that just sort of happens, or is that a overuse thing?
Yeah, it kind of just happened. I also had like a lot of hip mobility issues. So I suppose, yeah, hip mobility combined with heavy weight. Form was fine. Well, I think it was anyway. I tell everyone it was fine. Um, but yeah, kind of a combination of those things just really did it. And then yeah, sort of also in soccer, like kind of you're twisting and like the different sort of movements of your body, like just aggravated and just being in unnatural positions weren't good for it. But I found that running is actually really good for it because obviously like you're strengthening your lower body and like your hips, and they're all sort of flexible and loose and strong. So yeah, fingers crossed and touch wood, the back's been really good since I've started running.
Mm. Yeah, nice. Well, what do you find the differences are besides obviously the very different mechanics of going to the gym versus running? Like, how does it feel different to you, or is it kind of similar in the sense that you're pushing yourself physically? What do you see the differences are?
I suppose, yeah, they're quite different. I think the thing that I sort of really like about running as compared to like the gym or less so soccer, but I suppose there's like you can have a race, right? You're not competing in the gym unless you're like going to a bodybuilding competition, which I was not going to do.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect. And the sort of, I feel like you can see progress in the gym as well, but you can see like a lot more progress in your running. And I think it's, yeah, also a more sort of like sustainable thing, especially for me. So, yeah, it's been good. And as I said, like I didn't really enjoy it at the start, and I really only signed up to do it as like a social thing. But I don't know. I think when you keep sort of going back and seeing those improvements and like, seeing guys like you two on Strava and I'm a bit of like a YouTube and Instagram fanboy as well. So I'm like, watching all these people do like incredible things and I'm like, I want to do that too. And so that's what I
Mm.
suppose gets me out the door.
I think that gets a lot of, like, reflecting on it, kind of when I started got me out the door as well. Just like seeing Dom running a 3:30 something and being like, is that fucking, are you serious? Is
Mm.
that possible? And then you kind of like,
Yeah,
you get it.
good
Yeah,
for you. Like,
you don't know.
yeah, talking about your 5K as well.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny one. But how long did it take you to sort of, I remember distinctly it took me quite a while to get over that sort of initial period where you're getting used to running, because it's really, I found it quite grim for maybe a month before I kind of got addicted, let's say, to it. How did you find that initial period?
Yeah, pretty good. I think. Like, I, I think because I wasn't sort of taking it too seriously, and I was running with mates, and like, it was kind of a thing. Yeah, I was doing sort of for fun, like sort of 3-4 times a week,
Yeah.
and it just felt good to sort of like exercise again, like having sort of things that I've been doing for years sort of cut out of my life. I was like obviously a bit down about that, um, but like I sort of love like getting up and getting after it. So having sort of
Mm.
something to do again was the best thing. And I think as well, and sort of actually coming back to your earlier question about like what's different, I think like the mental side of running as well is something that I like really enjoy,
Mm.
um, and something different to sort of what I've done before, like having a difficult session and getting through it, or having a tough race and getting through it, or even not getting through it as well, but like learning heaps about what you've done and how you can improve and stuff. I think has been really good.
Yeah, that's a good point. In the gym, when you have a big session, is it very different? Because I know, obviously, before a run, you're kind of like trying to get in the right headspace. You know it's going to hurt. All these things are happening in the gym. Do you have the same sort of, or it's just not a similar feeling, or
Yeah, but
you know what I
I
mean?
think it's like yeah, I think it's much quicker though. It's kind of like okay, if you're going for like a race or something like a half or marathon, even a 5K, right? You're saying like 16 minutes, like that's a long period of time, right?
Mm,
Whereas like if you're trying to lift one, like if you're doing one set of weights or something, it's kind of over in like 30 seconds, and you're like, okay, I can get
yeah.
through this, like it's fine, it's quick.
Mm,
But that
yeah.
extended sort of battering you cop, I suppose, when you run, like, is a really like humbling sort of experience. And yeah, I feel like it. Um, yeah, you sort of build mentally when you get through those things. And I don't think I feel well. I don't know. I can't think of anything else that would be as similar, like in terms of a mental sort of training. I don't know
Mm.
if you have any other thoughts there.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think it's a big common theme that runners, especially when you start doing longer distance stuff. Well, actually, obviously, any even shorter distance stuff like 800 is a crazy mental game. But Dom, do you remember when you like started running? What it
Yeah.
was like initially? Because
I
it's
think
so long ago.
yeah,
Because you're at school.
yeah, at school and stuff. I don't know. I think I was always sort of like running a little bit, but at school it's not quite the
Mm,
same. Like you train for a season or so, and then you kind of stop running and do the next sport. Like you don't have
yeah.
that same sort of consistency the whole way through. But it's pretty crazy that people can run so well off like just a couple of weeks of training and stuff like that. Like all the guys who were running well in school, they'd only train for like 6 weeks or so, and then they go out and run like sub 4 for 1500 or like 9 minutes for 3K and stuff like that. It's like just insane, like how talented those guys are. Um, but
That does my head in. I can't stand when people do that. Like, why can't I be like,
I know, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, it's pretty different to the gym. The gym is more yeah, like Spencer was saying, just in the moment you have to fire up for each rep, but it's not that like long sort of push, and it's yeah less in your head and more kind of just getting through a moment. Yeah, but I think running's good because you got that long-term focus sometimes, and you're training for something more than just the session you're doing. Yeah, but I guess
Yeah,
like
100%.
the first marathon you did, Spencer, how did you find that? Like, because that's kind of the ultimate in running is to run a marathon.
Yeah, you went straight to straight to the marathon, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, skipped everything in between, went straight for the glory. It was a disaster. If I can sum it up, um, I had no idea what I was doing. Training was just diabolical. Just everything went wrong. But I was super stoked to get it done, and um, learned so much from it as well. And yeah, looking back at it now, so that was a year ago. So yeah, as I said, end of 2019, I sort of got into running, and then I went to sort of get into all these big races in 2020 and 2021, but they were obviously all cancelled. So I ended up doing 2021 a marathon by myself, just virtually. I was supposed to go to the Gold Coast, and I had this full elaborate scheme to escape Sydney when lockdown happened. I all those coronavirus cases started happening, and I knew it was going to get locked down. So I was like, I escaped to Canberra and lived with my grandmother for 2 weeks before the race, being like, I can fly into the Gold Coast from Canberra, and it would have worked. And I had it all sorted out, but then a day or two before the race, there were some cases in Queensland, so they canned it anyway. So it was all for nothing.
Shit,
And I came back to Centennial Park and did it around there. So it was 12 and a half laps. Which in hindsight, I'm like, I don't know why I did it there. It wasn't the best place to do it. Sort of undulating. It doesn't seem or look like it is sort of undulating, but it kind of is. It's sort of hard to get in a good rhythm there.
It's tough, yeah.
But yeah, pretty much did the first 21 with Ben Cunningham, who helped me out. And then the next 21 with a couple of workmates. So it was good always having someone by my side, or except about a 200-meter period where I was by myself. It was the darkest 200 meters of my life. And yeah, sort of got through that. As I said, sort of looking back at my training, it wasn't very smart. I didn't sort of do a lot of things right. One thing, for example, was easy running. I obviously running easy is sort of something based on feel or heart rate, right? But I'd be more concerned with how my Strava pace is going to look. And I was looking back at those runs today, being I went for an easy run, but my heart rate was 165 or something. I'm like, what am I doing? So things like that, I just didn't do well. And it all sort of came to, I came to pay for it on race day. And fueling didn't go well either. Again, I was concerned with not fueling enough, that I ended up fueling too much and sort of having stomach cramps and feeling pretty awful. And sort of actually saying it all this though, I was kind of on pace for 34 Ks, but then I learned what it was to truly hit the wall at 34 Ks, and I just fell apart. And the last 8 Ks were just awful. But ended up getting it done in 3:22. I was kind of going for a 3:15. So as I said, really fell apart in the last 8. But yeah, it was kind of a good thing. And a good thing that the race was cancelled, so I could kind of do it by myself and learn all about it. And yeah, I've made some massive, or hopefully massive, improvements to my training this year. I think I can run quicker, longer, stronger in a week. So yeah, I suppose we'll see how that goes. Maybe don't actually air this episode if I don't run a good time, but yeah, we'll see.
No. There's no going back. I'm sorry, mate. But
Yeah.
I'm going to actually, on you saying that, I've got this mystical VDOT calculator that calculates equivalent times. And I chucked in your 5K time, which
Not happening.
leaves you sitting at
I've done that as well.
259, 40 something.
No,
Go on, Spencer. Come on, mate.
Not a chance. No, like I feel like I've I'm definitely much fitter, and I'm going to go out and do it and say what time I'm going for. Like I know it's usually bad juju, but I'm like hopefully going to go for a 3:10. I was
Okay.
actually listening to an episode the other day, and Dom, you said something like, I think you were pacing the 3:15 marathon group at Canberra. You're like, who would try and run a 3:15 or a 3:10 or something? Like, why wouldn't you just go for? But I'm telling you, it was a massive difference, and I don't have 3 hours in me just yet.
That's funny.
We'll see.
Dom was still
Uh,
shitty because he was hungover and he's just jogging
I know. I
3:15. He's like,
remember seeing that.
who was dumb enough to do this?
You've done your what race did you have a week earlier? You had a ridiculous race the week earlier. You went
Yeah, it
out
was,
on the beers the night before,
yeah,
and then ran
Buffalo
3:15
Stampede. Yeah.
comfortably. Yeah, outrageous stuff.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. It was really good.
Hmm.
So in the race, Spencer, when did you fall apart 34Ks, and how do you describe what it felt like?
The worst thing ever. Like, no, I'm just kidding. It was fine. Well, not fine, but yeah. So I suppose for 34Ks, I felt really strong. As I said, it was like 3:15 pace was like 4:37s, which was okay for me. And I felt pretty good up until about 30. Was, yeah, I suppose struggling a bit more, as you should be, I suppose, from 30 to 34. But this is where I really feel that like my lack of easy running sort of came to bite me, I suppose. Like my aerobic base just wasn't strong enough to maintain that pace for 42.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, like I was taking on heaps of gels and electrolytes that like, yeah, my body couldn't handle it. And even though I'd like practiced it before heaps, it just all fell apart on the day. And yeah, it was a pretty awful feeling, to be honest. Like I was running with my mates, and they could sort of see me dropping off. And they were like trying to encourage me to keep going. And this is where I talk about the mental side of running, that it like I was in the darkest place mentally. Like I think mentally I was worse than I was physically. Like I just couldn't conceive the idea of running like another 8Ks. Like it's not far at all, obviously, especially when you've run 34. But I was like, I physically can't do this. Yeah, I was hurting, but like
Yeah.
I obviously could have. And yeah, like they were just awful. The pace, I think, like so. What I was like, yeah, 4:37s for 34, and then like 5:22s or something for the last 8. So like a massive drop off. And yeah, pretty terrible. But as I said, we learn from these things. So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully bounce back next week. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. And I guess like
Sorry, Dom.
looking back on this training block, are there like a couple of kind of key sessions that you'll reflect on and say like, yep, like I'm ready to go? Like I feel like when I've done a marathon, there's usually a few long runs or a few big sessions that really give me the confidence that I can hit the time. Have you had any big sort of runs like that?
Yeah, I've had a few actually. That's what like confidence is peaking right now. Just quietly or not quietly at all. That's why I came out with my time before. No, yeah, I've had a couple of really good long runs. And as I said, like I learned so much from that last marathon block that I wanted to, I suppose, implement into this block. And that was, well, one of the main things was more long runs at marathon pace. To be honest, I might have done 1 or 2 in the last block. And like, I really like regretted not doing more. So this block, yeah, almost every long run had blocks of marathon pace, and especially like progressive as well. So progressive pace long runs have really helped. But a key session that I I did it maybe 2 weeks ago was a really big confidence booster. It was 37K total. So my longest of the block was like 3Ks warm up, 3K cool down, but in the middle was 8 sets of like 3Ks at marathon pace or quicker. So kind of like progress
Yeah.
through the sets, and then like a K float. And yeah, so what's that? It was about 24Ks of marathon pace with some floating in between. But yeah, so the sort of pace I wanted to be hitting was about 4:30s. And by my last my last set, sorry, of the 3Ks, I hit like 4:10, 4 minutes, and 3:55 or something. So like I was still feeling very
Whoa.
strong and strong enough to run much faster than I would need to at that sort of point in the race. And yes, obviously you have the float in between, so you get a rest. But like I don't know, I feel like if you're picking up the pace at that point, is a good sign. And I've done obviously longer runs, like longer blocks. So like I think the longest I did was like a 24K marathon pace block, and that was all sort of quicker than pace as well. So like yeah, I've had some really good long runs. I think another good session that I did was like a 10 by 800. So I think yeah, a bit of a classic
The
marathon workout, but
Yassos.
sort of
Yeah.
Yassos, yes, Yasso, the genius. But yeah, like I did those at pace and felt strong. And again, like progressive reps as well. So my last one, yeah, like was much quicker than I started, and again, like feeling strong in all of these is like just the biggest mental thing for me. So as I said, yeah, like feeling confident, like have got all those Ks in the bank, um, and yeah, like now it's kind of just I know I'm fit enough, and it's like how can I execute this on race day and like run smart on race day to get that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Huge. So what were you? What? How did you start in terms of structured training when you were training for your first um, sort of marathon? Excuse me. So
Yeah,
what did it look like? What did it look like?
yeah. So as I said, I didn't really have a clue. Like I don't have a coach, obviously, or like I don't like go to a running group or anything. So I kind of all just did it myself. And as I said earlier, like I'm a big like YouTube and Instagram follower of runners. So I copied a lot of from what I saw. Um, and yeah, as I said last year, made a lot of mistakes, but I feel like um, yeah, like making those mistakes has made me learn from them, and yeah, able to sort of implement a better training block this year. So, as I said, just like trying to get in more marathon pace stuff, more progressive stuff, um, more sessions, I suppose, but then also just smashing out heaps of easy Ks. Um, and I feel like it's made a massive difference. Like I've really focused on heart rate this training block. So like wearing a heart rate monitor in every run and like tracking that religiously. And then yeah, even things like I went and like had a running gait analysis as well, just to make sure that like my sort of technique was okay, and just doing like little things like that to sort of help out my training. But yeah, in terms of how I structured it, like it was really just from seeing what other people did, and then
Mm-hmm.
also from like experiences that I had as well. So um, yeah, I like would probably like could see myself getting like into a running group or coaching something like that later on. But for now, like hopefully, like I'm seeing sort of like big improvements in my running through doing that. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In,
massive. Well, the reason I ask, especially in this training block, if I look at your, by the way, it's been inspiring running through and giving you a high five, like for
Oh yes, the
a
best.
lot of the mornings. Yeah, that that's like I've caught you a lot on your Saturday long runs actually as well,
What
just coming
I just
around,
see you
boom, and then
flying
checking
past.
Strava.
I can see you from like sort of down the road, and I'm like, oh god, he's Smitty. He's just absolutely and you kind of noticed me with about 10 meters to go, and I've got a big grin on my face, and then you start laughing, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's those little moments that are nice.
Yeah.
The what was I? Where was I going with my question? Oh yeah, because you're doing like good training, so it's pretty impressive that you've picked up quite a lot of structure just looking at other people. Because I mean, if I try to do that, for example, I don't know. I think I'd be a little bit scattered. Is there any like? Have you read any books, or have there been any particular like when you mentioned YouTube and Instagram? Who are the kind of influences that you're looking at?
Yeah. There's I don't know. There's a few sort of people. There's this guy called Ben Parks on YouTube. He's an absolute weapon. He's run like a
Oh
2:25
yeah,
marathon. And he's got really
Yeah.
good videos, and he's like super yeah, like just super fast, and like yeah, I don't know, actually has marathon plans on his page as well. But just has really good videos on like sort of
Yeah.
marathon training and stuff. There's a couple of other guys as well, like in the UK and US. But yeah, I don't know. Like I've just sort of different people here and there, and like I'll watch a video and see someone do like a cool session, and like I want to try that out as well. And yeah, I don't know. Actually, one question I was going to ask you guys, like something I did pick up from the old YouTube videos that I tried for a little bit. Um, Double threshold days. Have you done them, and like how did you find them? Because
Uh,
I
is that
I
the
did.
Inga Brixen? The Inga Brixen?
Yeah, exactly. I did it for like a couple weeks when I had a
Yeah.
few weeks off work, and like they absolutely battered me. And but like I seriously look back at my training, being like, those were really good workouts, and like I felt like I turned a corner in my sort of training block after those days. But obviously, kind of not sustainable for me or you guys as well. Like we have jobs and other things going on as well. But like I don't know, something like that I wouldn't. I don't know that I have seen from following other people is like a pretty cool thing for me, I reckon.
Mm. Double
yeah.
threshold. What did you what what was the actual workout? Do you remember?
But yeah, so one I did was like 3 by 10 minutes in the morning. So they, to be honest, they weren't like meaty. They were just like obviously like hard sessions, and you're going with not much rest. 3 by 10 minutes in the morning of like 90 seconds jog, and then like 20 by 400 at night. That was a big one.
20 by
Wow.
Um,
400. Jeez.
but yeah, they were like, as I said, like you're quite sore and tired at the time, and like that was in one of my biggest weeks of training. Um, but as I said, like I look back to that now, and like all these good sessions that I've had and that I was just talking about have all come after that. So I'm like, oh geez, imagine like the life of a professional athlete, like just banging those out, every week. I feel like you'd see massive improvements.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Double threshold.
Yeah.
I don't think I would say the closest I've gotten to doing that is with my sort of new program is loading up the sessions massively, especially on threshold. Because when I was setting my own sessions, I think I limited myself on what I could do in training in the sense where mileage has gone down, but intensity and length of sessions has gone up. So nothing like double threshold, but because I'm just running once a day, but workouts like 9 by 2K. I never would have dreamed of doing that, a session like that, because I would just think it's too meaty, right? But um, yeah, it turns out, and that's like touches on some of the mental aspect you were talking about previously, Spencer. Is like it's such a mental game, especially at threshold, because threshold's just where you can keep, even it feels like you you won't be able to run for 10 minutes, but you can normally stretch it out much further than you think if you're running at the right pace. So I guess it's a roundabout way of saying I like pushing out threshold workouts, but not, I haven't tried doing double like two in one day, but it seems like it certainly works
It's
for the,
probably not the best thing,
yeah.
especially for
Yeah.
someone like me. But like, here I am anyway. Like, I haven't gotten injured yet, so I still maintain it's a good session.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
they'd be good if they kept to. I imagine if they kept to threshold and not like when you do the 400s. If you're absolutely pumping yourself, I mean, it's just
Mm.
could be trouble.
Oh, it's a massive
Dom,
workout.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like massive. Dom,
Yeah.
have you tried anything like that?
Yeah. I've done double workouts in the past. I can remember at work we used to run on Friday mornings and do like a 30-minute tempo, and it was pretty cool because like you'd go out for 15 minutes, turn around, and then try and catch everyone on the way back. So that was really fun. I used to love that. And then Smitty used to train with me sometimes in the Arvos as well. And I can remember one day, I did the 30-minute tempo in the morning and then went and did 10 400s in the afternoon. And I think I was kind of like telling Smitty as an excuse, like, oh, I've done this tempo in the morning. I don't know how I'm going to go today. And then just, absolutely hammering the 400s. It was definitely not threshold. But I agree. Like, I got a lot of benefit from that. And sometimes you're kind of just playing with fire a bit and you don't want to overstep it, though, which is probably why I've kind of stopped it. But I think every now and then it's probably not a bad idea to throw it in.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't think I'll be doing it in the long term, but it was a good week when I did it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what about anything changed on the diet front? Like between how you're fueling day to day?
No, not really. My diet is like pretty kind of pretty decent all round. Like I it's not like I cut anything out of my diet, right? Like I eat like good sort of wholesome foods all the time, and of course like I like love ripping into like a block of chocolate and like a few beers on the weekend or something. Like I'm not gonna cut anything out of my diet like that. I don't think I'm like that kind of person or at that kind of stage of my running journey, I suppose, where I'm like maintaining a strict diet. But I think like the thing with diets, because I have done them before, like I don't know, I think they have to be sustainable for me. Like I have done things like a keto diet or like a intermittent fasting or whatever. And yes, you see benefits, but like how long are you going to do that diet for? Like, are you going to do that for the rest of your life? Because otherwise it's
Yeah.
not going to work for you. If you're doing it for a month or 2 months, 6 months, however long, like, and then just revert back to eating trash the rest of like the time, like there's no sort of point in my eyes doing it. So yeah, as I say, like I feel like my diet is sustainable in that I eat what I want and sort of when I want, but like the majority of the time is quite sort of wholesome, like good food. And I don't look too much into it. How about you guys?
Yeah. I think I've like played around with it a bit. I've mentioned it a few times. Like, I was working night shift and just the stress of all of that, I felt like my gut was just constantly churning because you're always eating food. I saw a nutritionalist and his big thing was like the alkaline diet, but it was the same thing. Like it wasn't that sustainable, but I felt like through doing the diet and all of that, like I learned a bit about food and stuff like that, which has helped me down the track. And I feel like, I eat like as best I can, but I love a bit of chocky and love a beer and love everything else. So I'm not gonna like let that get in the way of how I feel and stuff like that. And I think running's pretty good. It allows you to kind of indulge in stuff like that as well, which is nice. But Smitty, what about you?
I would say I've not really gotten too carried away with diet, but I've tried to refine, like just obviously, like you said, Spencer, eat good sort of whole foods and you know just good food, whatever. We all sort of intuitively know what we should be eating for over the years, but I would just say trying to cut out like sugar, like as much of the crap as possible is the big thing that's always like hardest for me because I do love a bit of chocolate. Biggest, obviously, I think I mentioned, but no alcohol for almost like seven months. So that's been one of the biggest things that's a change to my diet, which has been an very interesting thing. But I think running does kind of allow you, like you said, Dom, to really just you can eat a little bit more and have pizza, pasta, and all these things if you're training hard. Like you're going to be using that. You're going to be using that as an energy store, especially if you're like, okay, please don't quote me on anything I say, but this is
Doesn't seem-
potentially what I believe. Yeah, just we'll have to put the in when we're editing this, Dom. Just put a little disclaimer. This guy has no fucking clue what he's talking about. um, but basically, just being sensible, but you can eat those things that maybe people that don't run and don't burn all these calories can eat. Like, it's not going to eat a whole pizza or pasta and all these things, but we can cut, like when you get to the end of a long run, or you're training every day, you can eat the extra calories, which is one of the big perks of running, in my view. But you can still get, like, I've found that I sometimes use the fact that I run as an excuse to eat like shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is like just you'd be like, oh yeah, I did 30K long run today, so that means I can eat like 2 tubs of ice cream and and Kit Kats and stuff. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Just don't be stupid. So yeah, I'm always fighting that. But yeah, again, rambling, but I feel running allows you to just be more flexible. So
No, agreed.
anyway,
At the start, I think I mentioned that your seed time for the handicap challenge was 20 minutes for the 5K. Had you ever broken 20 minutes before? Or?
Yes, I had actually.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I was a bit offended by the seed time as well, just quietly. I saw that. I was like, what the
Sorry
fuck?
about that. Should have done my research.
Nah,
oh,
I'm kidding.
I should have done 22 minutes now.
Yeah, you should have. Nah, to be honest, I'd never, as I said, like sort of running in 2019, and then all the races were cancelled, right? So I never really I didn't race a whole lot before this year, and I'd never actually done a 5K race really. Well, like during lockdown last year, I did like a sort of, I suppose, yeah. Well, it was kind of like a time trial around Centennial Park. It was actually like I started at the top of the Paddington Gates and like flew down that first like 600 meters.
Yeah.
So it probably doesn't count, but I ran like a 1927 or something. So that I suppose would have been my PB. But I think still, like, even if I had like, I don't know, a 1930 seed time, I would have come under that anyway. So yeah, I've hit it a couple times, I think.
Yeah, I think, mate. Yeah, maybe don't look at the. I don't know. The VDOT calculator is pretty. It's pretty accurate sometimes, Spencer. But I don't want to be responsible for you blowing up. So
I did look at it last weekend and I was like, oh, geez, like, should I be that fit? Because I don't think I am.
well, from what you're describing, please don't take this. Please don't hold this against me if you end up trying to go out at sub 3 pace. But I mean, the training you described seems like you're in pretty good shape, because you're still like towards the end of long runs. You still got a lot in the tank. That sort of suggests, and like you're progressively running faster than goal marathon pace. But I mean, ultimately, you should run to your comfort level. Like, if you think that's blow up territory, you've obviously learned in the past what happens. So I guess only you can be the judge of pacing on race day. But I don't know. It's not like you ran an official 5K
Yeah.
at that time, and you haven't done 5K specific training. You've done marathon specific training. So I don't know, but yeah, just make of that what you will.
What are you trying to say, Luke?
Nothing.
I think like I'm like I know what I sort of want to do on race day, and it's like I'm just very cautious about like repeating what I did last year. And to be honest, where I want to be is like I just want to get to 30Ks and feel good, and then know that I can kind of like let it rip the last 12. So I suppose that's kind of the plan, like just to be comfortable. There is a 3:10 pacer at the Gold Coast, so I'll kind of stick around them for a bit and try and run with them, and then see how I go. But a problem that I've actually kind of had during training, and keen to hear your thoughts on this as well, are sort of like stomach cramps, like not like sort of like toilet problems or anything, but just like pain in my stomach that it's almost like a stitch, but it's not. And yeah, I'm worried. And they always come at sort of the end of a long run, and I think it's probably because of like a lack of sort of hydration. But it's one thing that I'm like keen to avoid on race day, and I know that if I sort of take out take out too fast and like sort of consume too many gels or whatever, like there's a high likelihood that that's going to happen. So yeah, kind of on race day, I'm keen to just sort of chill for the first 30, hopefully. And then, yeah, hopefully see what happens later on.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one, which is I think it can be very individual, but the only time I've experienced something like that is from having gels that I hadn't tried before. Dom, what
Yeah.
aside from the beetroot saga, what
Yeah. I haven't had too many issues, yeah, but like apparently there's like two different sources of carbohydrates and like the gels that you have. It's like I think Morton, it's like fructose and glucose or something, and Morton has like both of them, but a lot of the gels only have like one type. And if you've just got that one type, then you can like overload your system, and that's sometimes where you get gut problems. But
Mm.
yeah, I listen to there's like a podcast called the Long Munch, and it's with like some sports dietitians, and it's really good. They like go right into like all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know what gels are you using, or what gels have you been training with?
Yeah, so I've tried a lot, and that's actually a really good point. I've been using a lot of different ones. I originally started out with like goo, and that's what I used for my marathon last year, like the goo chews, because I was
Yep.
originally struggling with gels, so I went to chews. Then I came back to gels this year, and yeah, went through like goo, science and sport, Morton, and yeah, so I'll be using Morton next week. And I feel like they're sort of the best,
Mm.
or the least sort of impact that I've had. But I think like what I've
Mm.
said is just that I want to sort of take them a bit less frequently. So like I was initially taking them every 8Ks. Um, Again, like with the thought of like don't bonk, like get stuff in you.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like I'm taking them every 10 now. So I think like just sort of a couple of extra Ks and a few minutes, I suppose, as well, like has been helping me out. But yeah, it's just one thing I suppose I've struggled with in the training, I think.
Yeah. I was just thinking the other option is like drinks as well. I've found like Tailwind is a good alternative as well, and that's like pretty safe bet on your gut. So yeah, for like all the longer runs that I do,
Mm.
I have Tailwind and a gel,
has it?
um,
Sorry, Dom.
which yeah, that's what I did when I ran the 232, and I think that's like not a bad way to go as well. But I don't know if it's too late to start playing around with
Do you reckon? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I won't be changing now, I don't think. But do you reckon? What I think about that is that I'm not going to be in the elite field, so like I
Yeah,
won't have my own water bottles or anything. You
yeah.
two might, but like I don't know. I don't like the idea of carrying drinks
Mm.
with me.
Nah, yeah, I wouldn't bother
So
with that. Yeah.
yeah, like it's definitely a good one for like out on your own long runs, and that's what I did last year. But then I was like, no, I can't do that anymore.
Mm,
But
Mm.
yeah, maybe I will try it out after. See how it goes.
mm,
Yeah. Well, the yeah, that's a good point because I've often been curious about trying the liquid, but yeah, it's a bit hard logistically or somewhat impossible, like you're saying, Spencer. Amongst all, you kind of have to carry it on you. And I found the Morton gels to be quite good, like pretty good overall.
Mm.
But is it like a stitch? Is it like a stitch sort of feeling?
Yeah, it kind of feels like a stitch, but it's hard to explain. It feels like a stitch, but it's not. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, a stitch. I kind of when I have a stitch, I kind of like you can get rid of it, right? Like um, and usually, yeah, it is from sort of like taking on food or liquid or whatever. But like I'd have a gel, for example, and then if it was a stitch, I feel like I'd get it kind of straight away, but I'd get this like maybe like 5Ks later kind of thing. like an in between gel. So I'm like, I don't like. Yes, it's definitely to do with nutrition, but I don't feel like it's a stitch. It's more just sort of like my body not absorbing it that well. But like, I don't know. I've also been taking the Morton, like, I don't know what it's actually called, but it's like a carb drink, and I have it like before my long run, so like 2 hours
Oh yeah.
before, and I feel like I sort of load up on those carbs before the run, so then I can like take less gels through the run, or like less frequently, I think, as well. So that's
Yeah.
something that I've sort of been doing as well to combat the need to take heaps of gels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many gels are you planning on taking?
I'm going to take 4, so 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah, see how we
Okay.
go. How many do you guys take?
Yeah, I think for the marathon that I did, I planned to take 6, but I only ended up getting 4 in. So I think 4's fine.
Yeah, I think I had when I had my first marathon, obviously had an absolute atrocious time with my gut, which I learned
Yeah.
from that, and then oh god, I've described it on the podcast. It's literally the worst thing ever, worst thing ever. But it's actually funny. There was like the fact that there was no porta potty meant that I didn't go, which meant that I finished and ran at my time. But if there was one there, I was looking for one. I kept looking over my shoulder, like searching
Yeah.
out, like a
Wouldn't have added half an hour onto your time, right?
yeah. And then the second one I had the Morton ones, which went down really well. I planned to have 6, but I felt like I couldn't. Towards the end, I was just suffering too much that I couldn't get it down. I just kind of was like, let's just get through this sort of thing. But those 4 or those 3 or whatever it is, I feel are essential because as you keep pushing that limit of what, like the 2 hours, when you start pushing up past that point where your muscles really do need an injection of energy, you can't, you'll just blow up if you don't have it. So
Yeah.
four sounds good.
Yeah.
So I did have a question about, like, obviously we all have jobs, full-time jobs, and we work. So what are what are you doing at the moment, Spencer? You're working sort of for Woolworths.
Yep. Yeah. So stacking shelves. No. Working in finance for Woolworths.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it goes well. But I think something that, like, in terms of talking about running and work, like when I head out to the office is like way out west, right? And I go in a
Mm.
couple of days a week. So I think like the hard thing for me is like trying to get a run in before I go to work, because I cannot run at night. Like
Yeah.
I will eat food all day and then try and go for a run and just feel horrendous. So
Yeah.
like I have to go in the morning, and like I'll start work at sort of 7:38, which means I'm leaving home at like 6:37. So it's like getting up to go for like say like a medium long run at like 4:30 on a Wednesday morning, for example. Like
Mm.
getting out the door, especially when it's like windy and cold and like wet at 4:30, and you're like, oh, why am I doing this? But like, I don't know. I feel like once you're out the door and you're going, it's okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not so much like bounce. It's not like I work crazy long hours. Like I used to work sort of longer hours, and it would have been much harder then. But like working a sort of good amount of hours now, but just like trying to get a run in early in the morning is yeah, the battle for me, I think.
Mm. Yeah. I think I've seen on, I don't know, any influence of David Goggins at all, Spencer.
Maybe. Why?
I think I've seen something on, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. Have you read the book and stuff like that?
Okay. Yeah, great. Oh, he's the man. Don't at me. Why? Well, what have I done?
No, you haven't done anything. I'm just like, I think I said that. I think I said that with like a suspect tone of voice, but I was just more curious if God, because we've actually had Leo, we had on the podcast, mentioned that David Goggins was a big influence for him at a specific point in his life. Like, have you feel that sort of, those sort of books or material actually, because obviously getting up 4:30 in the morning, I don't know, certain people have things that fuel them to actually do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just all the demons I have, just get me up in the morning. No, I'm actually a big sucker for those like self-help books. Um, they are good, and that's why like I have read Goggins and like seen all his YouTube videos. And he's an
Yeah,
absolute nutcase. But yeah,
yeah,
I like, as I said, I'm very easily influenced. Like as I said, watching these like YouTube and Instagram people like makes me want to run like an Ingebrigtsen style workout. So
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I do yeah, sort of take a lot from those sort of people, and I think they're like it's good to an extent. Like I don't want to be doing what David Goggins did and like running on broken feet and stuff, but like I
Mm.
don't know. It's the small things like I don't know, just the lessons that they instill of like just discipline, for example. Like you might not want to like run at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's like if you keep doing that, you're going to see these improvements in your times and everything. And like yeah, I don't know. I feel like you will never go for a run and be like I regret that run, right? And the only time you're going to say you regret doing something is when you don't do it. So that's kind of how I
Mm.
view all that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. Essentially take it with a grain of salt
Mm.
and try and get some key lessons from it. But one thing that stuck with me, because I think I re-listened to one of the podcasts, was it's interesting how it's not so much about the specifics of his story. It's kind of just an example of like he says, what did he say? It was like the more he was trying to seek comfort, the more uncomfortable his mind was, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
it's like kind of that resonated with me. Is you think about training, it's like the more you don't train, the more you take the easy path, the more you sort of neglect the important things or these things that you think are important, the more you sort of regret it
Yeah.
psychologically. So I think that's the biggest takeaway from me. But you're right, like it gets a bit, you can get carried away in a sense,
No,
Yeah.
it's good.
like with the
And
taking soul stuff that Dom
yeah,
mentioned.
I use taking souls in races. Not gonna lie, but another point I like as well that they say is like train hard, race easy kind of thing. Like going for these like early runs or hard sessions, like
Mm,
just put it all in, and then like you're gonna get to the race and be in a better spot. And something that I've kind of learnt recently again this year was like I previously and still kind of do avoid hills like they're the plague. Like I will just do anything to not run up a hill.
mm,
Um, and then, for example, at like SMH half earlier this year, like pretty hilly course, and it was like
Oh
a
yeah.
bit of a humid day as well. Like I'm not making excuses, but like I just had a terrible day. And it's like if I had run more hills in training, like obviously I would have felt so much better. So now it's like, okay, I'll start
Mm.
bringing some more hills in and stuff, and hopefully I'll see the benefits of those as well.
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. For me, that was speed
Mm.
workouts. It's just like I absolutely don't want to do these, but it's the thing that I needed to do, especially leading up to Sydney 10, where I ran well, I believe, as a result of doing the things that I didn't want to do in the past,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Um,
It's
yeah,
tough. I feel like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many things to cover. Like there's always going to be something that's lacking, almost, unless you're
yeah,
a professional
yeah,
athlete. But
yeah.
yeah, talking about important things. What's the shoe rotation looking like at the moment for you, Spenno? And what are you going to race in on the Gold Coast?
Yes, yes, the all important shoe rotation. So I'm racing in Vaporflies. Got a fresh new pair. Actually, I had a bit of
Oh yeah.
a story about this new pair, which I was a bit not angry, but disappointed with. Good friends at Pace Athletic. I ordered a new pair of Vaporflies, Vaporfly 2s, like the white and blue ones from Pace Athletic. And then I, like, a few days later, was like checking the tracking info and it goes delivered. And I was like, what's happened here? Like, I look outside, they're not out there. Um, and like, I've called up Australia Post and they go, "Oh, they've been delivered to Lismore," and I was like, "What's going on?"
Oh, what?
And it turns out like they just sent them to the wrong address. But then I was like, I'm going to get a new pair in, but they had run out of that color and size. So I was like, oh damn.
Oh no,
But
you're
I'm
kidding.
going with the black Vaporflies next Sunday. So I went for a little. I took them out on my Tuesday tempo or Wednesday tempo last week. So I've got it. Yeah, they're pretty new, but hopefully they should be good. But then just running easy days in New Balance 1080s. So I've actually just sort of gotten to the end of my like version 11. So keen to check out the version 12s pretty soon, and then running in Saucony Endorphin Speeds as well for my like
Oh yeah,
fastest sort of work. So yeah, good sort of three shoes that I like. Yeah, sort of actually keen to give the like Asics Metaspeeds guys or Edge. Actually, I think I'll use a go probably next as the next sort of race shoe, and obviously like the Alpha Fly 2, they're coming out soon, so want to see how they go. But yeah, I don't know. Like I see you guys obviously use like a whole different range of shoes, but what are your go-to speed shoes or race shoes as well?
yeah. Yeah, I'm similar to you at the moment. I'm training in the 1080s, and then training shoes. I kind of just use like an old pair of race shoes. So I've got like an old pair of Next Percents, and then a new pair of Next Percents to race in, just because I'm a bit of a stinge and can't be bothered to buy a pair of training shoes like a Speed or something. That I don't know. I got the Endorphin Pro, and I really like that. So I should probably invest in something like that, considering running is a pretty big part of my life. Should probably get the right shoes for it. But yeah, that's kind of how I'd go about it. But you're buying shoes every like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. So there's plenty of opportunity to try different shoes. What about you, Smithy?
Yeah. I've actually kept my shoe rotation pretty similar for quite a while. Like running in, I used to really enjoy running in the Nike. What were they? Turbo 2s, Turbo and Turbo 2 before they were discontinued. Then I would always sort of go down the Nike route, but then more recently running in New Balance. What are they? Dom, you know what they are.
New
I
Balance,
should know.
Rebel or Asics?
No,
Oh,
Asics,
yep, yep, yep.
Asics, Nova Blast. Yeah. So on my easy days, and some of my long runs, depending, those seem pretty good. Like they're a nice shoe, sort of for easy days and just that general mileage. And then I'm running in Endorphin Speeds for tempo days. But I've really actually been enjoying running in just like you, Dom, running an old pair of Vaporflies in training. I feel like gives me sort of a, I don't know, call it an edge, but it's nice that you're like kind of putting on the fast shoes to go fast in a session. I don't know, it's one of those things. And then um, Alpha Flyers is what I've raced in. I raced in the Sydney 10, and Canberra in the Alpha Flyers, but I don't know if they feel just really. I prefer the feel of
Me too.
Vapor Flies. The Alpha Flies feel a bit bulky, um, almost, and I know they're still a fast shoe, but yeah, really, really just probably going to try and mix it up a little bit after Gold Coast in preparation for the next sort of race. But the shoes Sota was wearing today, which is I think the meta, the new, what are they called?
Metaspeed or
Um,
yeah, Asics ones.
Asics.
yeah.
Metaspeed Sky
He was really Sota was really
Plus actually.
saying they were really good. So I don't know, might try something different.
Mm.
But yeah, it pretty kept it actually relatively tame. Only those three shoes.
Mm. How many Ks do you guys get out of your like? You're saying you're running your old Vaporflies. Like, I'd be worried about like I don't know the shoe sort of breaking down or like not actually working well when I'm running in them. How many sort of Ks do you get out of them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sitting at about 400 Ks in the Vaporflies, and that's a bit dangerous. Like they're feeling at their limit, even though they're still fast. It's probably, I wouldn't want to push it more than that. Also, my toes starting to poke out the top of it. So that's another sign I probably should stop wearing it.
Yeah, good.
But normally, like Pegasus, I used to actually run in Pegasus, or the Pegasus range, which were pretty good, but they felt after a while just a bit flat and just a bit sort of not boring, but just, I don't know, repetitive, because that's all I used to train in. But I could get a good 800, 900 Ks out of them, which is a plus for a shoe that's not very expensive. Um, but typically, I don't know, 600, 700 Ks will be the limit on other shoes, but not Vaporflies. You can feel them sort of losing that initial kick pretty early on, maybe 200 Ks.
Mm,
But what about what
mm.
about you, Dom? How far do you typically?
Yeah, probably racing them, yeah, for about
Mhm.
200 Ks, and then use them as a trainer pretty much until they die. Probably for about a year, I'll have like a pair of Next Percents that I'm using in training. And then once like the sole starts
I
coming
was
off,
about to
I'll
say, what's your
get it into
definition of die for a shoe?
yeah, when it stops performing, I guess. Yeah, like yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
very good, very good. Um, I don't know. I think we might start wrapping up. Dom, do you have any questions that I might have missed, or we've covered a lot? We normally end on a question about your favorite race. So, what's your favorite race, and a bit of maybe why it's your favorite race?
Yeah, well, hopefully in a week's time I'll say Gold Coast, but can't say that just yet. But I reckon, gee, I'm really actually talking up this race. I've heard about him perform now. I should
Yeah.
shut up. But I think it's a good sign though. I'm excited. I'm feeling good. Yeah, but no, I reckon Blackmore's half 2019 was like, I suppose my breakout race, if you could call it. Like the first
Yeah.
time I kind of like actually trained properly for a race and did a pretty decent time for like not running into like a first half. And that kind of like established my, I suppose, like love of running. And from there, I was like, cool, like I really want to get into this. And yeah, I think I've come on in leaps and bounds since then, if I can say that. So yeah, that was my race.
Yeah.
Yeah, love
Epic.
it. Well, I'm very excited to see now, especially excited after the
I'm not now. Yeah.
to see what you do at Gold Coast, and I'll see you there, mate. So which will be good. Even though I'm racing
Yeah.
on Saturday, I'll
Yeah.
definitely come down for the marathon. But obviously, you put in the hard yards in training, doing those long runs, filling the gaps to some of the mistakes you made previously, which everyone obviously makes in their first marathon. So I'm super keen to see how you go, and yeah, good luck, mate, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck as well to you too. I'll miss your race, unfortunately, Luke. I get in like Saturday Arvo, but
No,
I'm
that's
sure
okay.
I'll see it on Strava and hear all about it. And Dom, you too for the Brisbane,
Yeah.
like the big 160K. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Benno. It's been a pleasure, mate. Best of luck.